So, first of all, thank everybody for joining us. I'm Eric Barron. I am the Chief Revenue and Growth Officer at Triplemint. For those of you that don't know, Triplemint is a real estate brokerage based in New York and New Jersey for now. We are data and technology focused, really enhancing the consumer experience all around things data to help you make better decisions for you and your family. So we have three amazing experts with us today, Natalie Miniard, Witte, and Jim McCarten. So I'm going to throw it to the three of you for a quick introduction. It's nice to see that Natalie is actually sitting in Triplemint House, Hoboken, which I'll give a quick plug to. And I also want to give a shout out to Hoboken Girl. Hoboken Girl, just an amazing partner of ours. The website, the content, the information that she's been doing for so many years in Hudson County is so invaluable. So I want to give a big shout out to Hoboken Girl. And I guess I'll give a big shout out to Triplemint House, right? It's what's the new age of what retail is going to look like in real estate? Natalie's sitting there right now at 331 Washington Street in Hoboken. It's the first of many. It's a design and an event space that we cannot wait till we get to the other side of COVID to be hosting the local community for so many interesting and fun and educational events at Triplemint House, Hoboken. Soon to be Triplemint House, Jersey City and beyond. So I'm so happy to see Natalie sitting there today. So without further ado, let's start with Natalie Miniard, our infamous broker of record in New Jersey. Let's hear a little bit about each of you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Natalie Miniard. I have been in real estate for about 18 years now, and my focus has pretty much been Hudson County, almost exclusively Jersey City. I've lived here for 24 years and got to be a part of this growing, incredible real estate market, and I love it. I love working with buyers and sellers and developers and landlords, and it's been really quite a ride over 18 years in this industry here in Hudson County. So I'm excited to talk about it with everybody.
Awesome. Mr. Witte, because you're next up on my screen. Paul
Awesome.
Witte.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you find the information that we're going to share helpful. Just a brief background on myself. I've been in sales for the past 20 years. Corporate sales mainly when I lived in the city, and then I relocated to Paul's Hook in Jersey City almost like 8 years ago now. And once we moved, I jumped into real estate full time. Haven't looked back. It was the best decision I ever made. Get to help people on a daily basis, and you know it's been interesting over the past 6 years just to see how the market's evolved. But demand's strong, and I think that the proximity to the city is still a big selling point to a lot of people, and people see the long term, even though with COVID, obviously, people started to shift to the suburbs. I see a shift coming back to city living. So I think long term is going to be very strong.
Awesome. Mr. McCarten, Jim McCarten.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jim McCarten. I am actually located in the Triplemint House as well. So both of us are here today. My background is over 35 years in sales. The first 20 odd was on Wall Street as a bond broker, which very much plays into what I'm doing now. It's putting buyers and sellers together and taking home some commission. And right now in Hoboken and Jersey City, I agree with Paul. I think the density problem during COVID in Manhattan and the suburbs definitely affected our market. But now, because of the lack of inventory, which we'll get into later on in the suburbs on single family homes, we're seeing trends back to Hoboken. Hoboken is actually busy now in the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom market, and we're seeing a lot of bidding wars starting again here in Hoboken. Looking forward to meeting everybody going forward.
Awesome. So just a quick reminder, there's a Q&A button on the bottom. If you have some questions, we'll spend the last 10 minutes or so answering some of those questions. So please join us in the Q&A. Should we get right into it? Let's get right into it. So fourth quarter market report. What are your biggest takeaways from the fourth quarter and how the first 3 weeks of 2021 has reacted as well? So let's start again. Anybody could hop in here. I'm not going to go one. Who's got a strong opinion on your biggest takeaways from the fourth quarter data?
Sure. You know, I've seen a huge increase in activity. A lot of people were waiting for the election, waiting for a vaccine to be rolled out. There's, you know, interest rates are historic lows. The stock market's an all-time high. It's like the perfect, you know, recipe for consumer confidence, which is really impacting the strength of the housing market, both in the suburbs and in the city, Hoboken, Jersey City. There's never been, well, I shouldn't say never, but there's very strong demand right now. Certain parts of the market, anything with outdoor space, has a lot of demand. So it's really important that you speak with an agent who knows the market well. It's not as easy as taking a look at a blended average of price per square foot. You really have to factor in if things are in more demand than other parts of the market. So it's shaping up to be a really strong 2021. Hopefully we get some more inventory because a lot of people are looking to buy.
That's an interesting point, right? I mean, just you can't just take a look at the macro data, right? Because you have so many sub-neighborhoods in each county,
Absolutely.
Let alone blocks, let alone potentially individual buildings. So it's really, really important to not just make these broad sweeping statements that things are great or things are not so great based upon general market data.
Exactly.
Jim and Natalie, some specific takeaways from fourth quarter data?
I'll jump in. I think coming off of Paul's comment there, I think the rate, because they're at an all-time low, I think that continues. My conversations with the people still on Wall Street is that rates will continue for the next year at least at these lows. And one of the facts I'd like to bring out is rentals in this area along the river. The non-payment of rentals is not existent. People are paying their rents, and what's happening is some of the people that own these properties are going to bring them to the market in the spring. We're going to see an increased inventory here, and there's buyers lining up. I'm doing 6 days a week here in Hoboken and Jersey City, as opposed to before Christmas, it was 4 days a week. So since the inauguration, we have teed up.
Okay. Natalie, anything you want to add to fourth quarter data?
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with obviously what they're saying. I know from kind of seeing the activity of the whole office and all the agents, usually this is the time of year that we as real estate agents get to kind of take a little bit of a break. It's quieter, the holidays, it's cold, people don't like to move in the winter. The seasonality just doesn't exist right now. I don't know any of us that are actually getting to turn off and step away. I think people are excited about, you know, these rates, and like they both said, you know, leases are going to be coming up here in the spring, and anybody that's, you know, been toying with the idea of purchasing are already starting to look, and they don't necessarily want to re-sign a new lease. So we're very busy. I'm hearing from homeowners that are finally thinking maybe it's a good time to put it on the market, that may have been waiting, and buyers. I'm really excited for the spring market to hit with these rates and the activity we're going to see.
So we're talking about, but the conversation is obviously different with buyers and sellers, right? You know, it's good time to buy, good time to sell, and sometimes not always aligned. So from a data perspective, you know, what are you using in the data to help buyers and sellers make decisions? And the more specific you can be, the better, right? You're having conversations with clients every single day. So I really like to use some examples. Is it days on market, right? Is that as important as ever, or is it not as important?
I'll jump in there if you want.
Data points that you focus on, and is it different with buyers versus sellers?
I'll jump in on days on market. I'm just an example in Hoboken, the difference between a 1,200 square foot, the data is showing me that 1,250 and below in square footage, the days on the market is 20 days different than if you're shopping for something over 1,250 square feet. The price point also jumps by 300,000 to 400,000 on average. So if you're below 1,250 square on a standard vanilla 2-bedroom, 2-bath with parking, you're at $800,000. If you go above 1,250, the days on the market goes up by 20 days, and you're at $1 million average. So that's a very important factor when you're sitting with a buyer and a seller, because the seller can really zone in on where he wants to be on his sale. If he's not ready to sell at that price, it is not the time. But the buyers are jumping in because of the low rates. They've saved money over the last year. People have been home. So people have some money sit in the bank and they're ready to buy. They just need to find the right
product.
product.
Like that's an inflection point, right? It's almost like saying, where's the floor break on a new dev, right? The view, where things typically go X amount per floor and then all of a sudden it jumps triple. Correct. So you're seeing around the 1,200 square foot mark, an atypical jump.
Correct.
Interesting.
I'll also jump in there. Yes. So, you know, in some respects, I would throw days in the market out the window. Good example is I had a client that was looking at a property that's been on the market for 150 days, which would suggest that it's overpriced. You know, after viewing the property, they want to put in an offer, and after 150 days on market, 4 offers. So I think it's really time of year. Just because something's been on the market for a long time doesn't mean that it's, you know, sellers tend to be holding somewhat firm in their pricing. There's no big discounts right now unless something needs a lot of work. Anything that's in, you know, in a desirable location is in pretty good condition. Even if it's been on the market for a long time, you're not going to get a big discount.
So do you have a hypothesis of why that is?
I do. I think that, you know, when things crashed in 08, the mortgage market changed. We're not seeing the same down payments. More people were doing 20% down. We weren't seeing the 3 and the 5 and the 0% down. So people have equity right now. They've also seen the appreciation happen over the last, 10 plus years. So most people that have bought recently even, you know, are sitting there in okay place because they put a decent amount down. And if they bought, you know, 10 years ago, they're looking even better. So the 7 to 8 year, period that most people are kind of staying put, now that it's time to sell, you know, they're not desperate. They don't have to take, they're not underwater. They're not in a place that they have to sell or they're going to be in trouble. So they're being realistic. I think that the days on market, you know, this conversation when you're listing a home, we really do dig in as real estate professionals. We don't just look at the overall data. We dig into it to try to really place that home properly on the market when it comes to market, to try to keep those days on market down so that there is, you know, it comes to market at the right place. And it's not always just pricing. You know, there's a lot of things that we help a seller with ahead of time before we put it on the market so that it does come out strong and it is very desirable from the get-go. And that helps us keep days on market down.
Right. And like you said, Paul, you know, this has been a atypical year, right? I mean, you know, whether just because something's been on the market 150 days, you know, you've also seen a massive uptick. You know, one of you mentioned it earlier, just in consumer confidence in itself. Right, in the past couple of months, you know, whatever your thoughts are on the election and obviously COVID and everything else, we've definitely seen an uptick in consumer confidence, which automatically people jumping in now, like you said, that 150 days, 4 offers. Why? Sometimes there's just no answer, just the timing.
Yeah.
That's a very, very interesting point. So buyer and seller conversations, is there anything else from the data that you kind of want to unpack here for a buyer watching today or a seller watching today? Is there a piece of data or certain questions you're going to ask them as it relates to the data?
I think it's important to see what you're up against in the moment. The comps are important, obviously, but the comps also lag because when they finally close, you know, they actually went under contract 2 to 3 months before likely. So I think it's really important to see what you're up against. Obviously, you don't know where those properties are going to close at or finally sell at. So it is important to know what the numbers are and what's closed and what's gone under contract recently is important. But also just kind of knowing what you're up against when you're coming to market, knowing how many other homes just similar to yours, where does it really stack up, you know, on the market? How many 3 bedrooms are there right now with southern exposure and outdoor space? You know, maybe this is a perfect time, even though maybe normally around the holidays you would think, oh, it's not the right time to list something. Well, if there's nothing else like it out there, it might be a great time to get it on the market. So I do think understanding in the moment and having these conversations with your real estate professional in the moment. I mean, I'll actually have a conversation the day before we put it live Let's just revisit this. Let's look and see if anything new has hit the market, anything new has closed in the last 24 hours before we go live, to make sure that you're really going out there at the right place.
It's such a great point. I just want to reinforce that for a second, right? Because as great as our data is at Triplemint, because we have a whole data science team, you know, an immediate snapshot of today could be very different than even 30 days ago, right? And that's so critical. Not just, and the data may not even be available to the consumer, right? You may need to get on the phone with other agents and other brokers to figure out and see what traffic is like, right? Oh my God, were there 3 people at your open house, or were there 37, right? That tells you real-time demand, which may force you to uptick, right, what you go to market with. So that data from a month or 2 months ago, as good as it is, you know, it's so super important. Like you said, even the day before, things could be changing and trending in a different direction, and you need to get ahead of that so you don't look back and go, oh my God, we missed this window.
Especially right now, there's so much changing every single day. You turn the news on and something new and insane is going on. So, I mean, every single thing that we're going through day to day is affecting consumer confidence.
Can I ask something real quick? Because one of you talked about the rental market. You know, people ask, rental market, sales market, are they mutually exclusive? How do they relate? You know, how is the rental market, right? Because some people here in New York City, oh my God, massive vacancy rates in New York City proper. You know, when we look along the river in other counties and Hudson County specifically, how is the rental market affecting the sales market?
There's an abundance of rentals available. Some of these buildings that are more dense with multiple units are offering very different types of leases, extended leases. If you take 27 months, you take a 24-month lease, you can get 27 months. So the cost average of that unit can go from $4,000 down to $3,000 with the 3 extra months, and the amenities are full. If you come in,
right, but then when you say that, Jim, I automatically think, wow, maybe then I won't buy. It's so inexpensive to rent.
Exactly. And some of the people that, I mean, there's, again, people have some wealth. Some of the data behind some of the printed data shows us that clients that are prepared, people that are prepared financially, their books are in order, their credit, a lot of my clients, we do a credit check before when they call to say that we want to go out. First thing we do is we find out about their credit. Let's repair it if we need to, because if they're prepared, they're going to be very much more ahead of the market than those people that come in and didn't really realize that they have some blemishes on their credit. But in general, the data shows prepared buyers are more successful. Our data shows are more successful in closing in a shorter period of time than those that are not. But on the rental side, we have a big rental market. My son does a lot of rentals. And at the end of the day, he keeps telling me, he said, Dad, some of the renters that we convert, it used to be about 30 to 40% in the past year. Recently, it has gone down. People are staying for another year. And that's because they want to go to single families in the suburbs and they're not there. So they're staying with the rental and they're renegotiating their lease.
I also think it has something to do with, the distribution of wealth with a lot of, especially younger people that tend to be the demographic for Hudson County. You know, you have a lot of tech people, you have a lot of investment bankers, with a pretty significant amount of wealth at a young age. And, basically you have 2 places to put your capital. It's either the stock market or housing. And people want to diversify. People don't want to have all their money in the stock market. So I think, real estate makes a lot of sense if the timeline is right, meaning are you going to be there for, at least 3 to 5 years? It makes a lot of sense. If you're planning on moving within the next year or 2, it might not make sense to buy. So it's really, a case by case basis. And you need to talk to, a real estate agent to try to figure out what's in your best interest.
I think there's a lot of, we could have a whole seminar, I think, on this question alone. I think what we have to keep going back to, I know for me, these interest rates are insane. I mean, I remember when I bought my first place, which, I was excited to get 6%, to see these rates in the low 2s. If someone is renting, they're paying someone else's mortgage. Why would you not want to be paying your own mortgage? So I think that when leases do come up, because I don't think landlords are really letting people out right now, when leases come up in the spring and the summer, we're going to see people making that decision. We're going to see parents yelling at their kids to get, put your money towards buying. You're going to see, accountants yelling at, why are you renting still? build some equity. And, Hudson County has consistently been a pretty good investment. Year over year, we've seen some sort of appreciation, certainly for the last 12 plus years. Some years it's better than others, but, rather than paying someone else's mortgage, why would you pay someone else's mortgage? This is a great time. And I think that the one bedrooms, there's a really good opportunity right now. Depending on who you're talking, you've got landlords and not big landlords, individual people that maybe bought a one bedroom, their first home, and then have moved on to something else, but kept their smaller home and rented it out because it was a good investment. My last 5 or so listings were those landlords that didn't want to be in that market anymore. They were ready to cash out. They didn't want to try to fight this kind of struggling rental market. And so they chose to sell, and they all did well. And they made that decision to sell. So I think we're going to see more of that coming on the market. And I think that we're going to see more people finally maybe taking that decision to, all right, do I want to pay my own mortgage or somebody else's? And with the rates as low as they are.
You started saying something about something I was going to ask you, because I know you've mentioned it to me the past few weeks about one beds, right? We had Jim earlier that said, 1,200-ish for him, when he looks at the data, looks like almost a breaking point in Hoboken. Talk about these one bedrooms versus, because people talking about home offices today, right? It's potentially for the foreseeable future, a whole different flex work from home, and people go, oh, one bedrooms, but then I guess the number talks about, your time frame for hold, something Paul just mentioned. Do you think there's opportunity in the one bed market that you're seeing take place right now?
Absolutely.
100%.
We're seeing more in a lot of investors. You brought up investors before. We're seeing a lot of investors jump into one bedrooms. And they're, obviously because their market has softened in the one bedrooms because of the abundance, and with rates where they are, they're planning on going forward. The rental market is softer as far as rents go. But going forward, like Natalie said before, Hoboken, Hudson County, Jersey City, it will come back. The proximity to Manhattan will always be here, and the rents will come back.
So this is a buy, okay, but you say investors. So these investors are not buy and flip. These are buy and hold for at least 3 to 5 years.
Correct.
Okay. So a very different mentality.
Yep.
I just want to be clear. There are some people here that maybe have never bought before listening, and once again, it's such a specific decision. What are your expectations of buying? And Paul mentioned, we've all mentioned it, right? The longer you hold this, you can't necessarily time the market. If you believe in the underlying belly that Hudson County is strong and New York City is not going away, that proximity is invaluable. So, it depends what your time frame is, right? What your expectations are of the return on your investment. So.
But again, if you're going to pay somebody else's mortgage, I mean, the average one bedroom around here, you're paying $2,300, $2,500, $2,600. Why not put that towards your own mortgage rather than throw that away even for a year or two? So
you think Natalie's obsessed with everybody not paying someone else's mortgage?
I mean, look, I have wonderful tenants. So I'm very grateful for everybody that does still want to rent. And obviously we're going to have a lot of people that are going to come over. Again, as the leases kind of come up in New York City, I have a lot of friends that are coming over here just to go out, for dinner, because we are still open a bit. 25% are restaurants, and we do have outdoor dining and such. So I have a lot of friends from the city that have come over, when they do want to go out for a dinner, they're coming over here. So I think that's actually going to help our market even that much more when they're able to leave their lease, in the summer.
I want to take this 20 seconds here to reinforce to everybody listening. This is such a personal decision.
Yes.
What your parents say, what your friends say really may not be right for you. Natalie, you and I have talked about it offline. You got opportunities right now, not just with the rates being low, but super low down payment options, right? There are interest-only payment options. There's so many interesting mortgage products out there today that could really stretch your dollar. Yeah. And it's such a personal decision. Never take a 30-year fixed. Always take a 15-year fixed. I mean, I don't want to go into we could have a whole separate seminar on mortgages, but it's such a personal decision. And that's why I don't want anybody to make these broad sweeping comments that it's a great time to buy or a great time to sell. The question is it a great time to buy or a great time to sell for you?
For you. Yeah.
It's a great time to discuss it with a real estate professional and a mortgage rep.
All the more reason.
The right team.
All the more reason you need a realtor during this time, because their data changes like we talked about. It could change within a week. So without a realtor on the ground day to day, it's a huge advantage.
Well, that's another whole separate conversation, right? We could have a whole separate seminar about how to choose the right real estate professional to represent you, right? Because real estate agents come in all shapes and sizes. And I wish buyers and sellers, and I'm imploring any buyer or seller listening to really do your due diligence. It's not about being in business with your friend or someone that goes to your church or your temple. Just really do your due diligence. It's your largest financial asset for most people. And a real estate agent on the sales side has one goal, right? To protect your equity, every dollar of equity. And on the buy side, to really guide you and make sure you're making the right financial investment for you and your family. A great agent offers so much value. And frankly, a not so great agent can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So, okay, enough of that diatribe. Let's talk about new construction for a second. Anybody have an opinion on what's the data showing on new construction opportunities? Anybody can take this and run with it.
I will jump in. I was just up at the Toll Brothers new construction yesterday, and they are seeing a very, very robust. Their appointments are scheduled for the next 3 weeks. On the weekend, they're booked. You want an appointment at a new construction condominium? Right now, it's around Valentine's weekend.
Really?
Yes. And this is only since last Wednesday.
Hoboken or Jersey City or beyond?
Hoboken and Jersey City, but most recently Hoboken. Both.
Well, and have you gotten any feedback? Just hypothesis? Just
one of the points Paul brought up before, the inventory is waning and people are coming back to the urban living. And if they're coming back, again, wealth is here and they have money, and these units are, with views of Manhattan right on the river. They're not less expensive. They're competitive, and they have the amenities, and that's, it's driving these young millennials that are making more money than they've made before to come here and buy the new construction. New construction in the suburb, that's a different story. That's a completely different story.
Well, I also think, a lot of our market has to do with relative value. So people that have lived in Hudson County, Jersey City, Hoboken for a while, they see the prices on new construction and it seems really expensive. However, you take somebody from Manhattan who's renting right now and has, even just quickly looked at the price of new construction, or even something that's, 5 to 10 years old in Manhattan, they think new construction here is a bargain. You could get a 3-bedroom for the same price that, you might be able to afford a 1-bedroom in the city, and you're not quite ready for the suburbs yet. Let's say you don't have kids. I think most people realistic, maybe you don't have to go back to commuting full time, but I think that there is going to be some sort of hybrid where, companies are going to want their employees back in the office at some point.
So, and you're saving 3% on the municipal tax too in the city.
Absolutely. Yeah. Property taxes are higher here in Hudson County, which, gives people pause. But when my wife and I moved to Jersey City, we factored in that city tax, and it was more than a wash. It was a no-brainer for us.
I think also people's mindset right now is brand new. No one else has lived in here, super clean. I think that there's
interesting.
What we're going through right now, people have always enjoyed new construction for that reason, but I think it's enhanced right now with what we've been going through this last year. I also think, the newest stuff coming to the market is also, more in line with what people want nowadays. Every time they build a new building, they're paying attention to trends and what people have wanted from the last building, and they're making the next one better. And Toll Brothers especially have been doing so much development in Hoboken and Jersey City. They really are hearing from the last project, and they're making adjustments to what they add to the new project. So every time a new building comes in, it should be that more desirable than the last even. And I think that lends to it as well.
Right. I almost feel like here we go again, another whole seminar for sellers of what you need to update into, modern trends and is it worth, right? If I invest $20,000 in staging and upgrading, will I get a $40,000 return, or just leave it as is? And I think a lot of people today, like you said, with COVID and the challenges of even getting things, right? You can't get appliances if you're looking to renovate for 6 months. And so new construction that's move-in ready, and you don't have to deal with, forget about just new living there. How about workers in your house? I have 6 workers in my house right now, and I keep yelling at them, put on a mask. So, that kind of thing. And just, I can't get a dishwasher for 3 months, the one I want. So these turnkey new developments, like you said, I could see why they're desirable given the current market conditions. Very interesting. Okay, a micro question or two. What's happening in Bergen Lafayette, right? Bergen Lafayette, lowest time on market, the data showed. What's happening in the Bergen Lafayette area? Who wants to take that and run with it?
So I'll start. Bergen Lafayette is a lot of the new construction that we've seen.
For those of you that don't know listening, where is Bergen Lafayette? You want to kind of...
Oh, now we're doing a geography question.
Right.
It's along Liberty State Park. It's a little south of downtown. Beautiful views from Liberty State Park. You're near. We have a light rail there. Very, very historic area. Beautiful brownstones, nice parks, and some really historic. A lot of character. What we're seeing is that some of the developers are moving over there and building. Much like we're seeing a lot of places, rentals. We're seeing rentals. So a lot of the new development that's happening in Bergen Lafayette are smaller rental buildings, 70, 80 units and below. And so when something is coming on the market, which people are obviously right now drawn to the bigger spaces, others can touch on this, but I do think that what we've seen getting built in Bergen Lafayette has mostly been rentals, at least the larger scale. And so again, the lack of inventory is maybe feeding the demand. And I'll let maybe Paul jump in. He had some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Natalie. I also think that, to your point, investors building rentals, there's also investors doing flips. So they'll take, a dilapidated brownstone, cut them up into 3 condos, and those will sell in a couple of weeks because everybody wants new. And the affordability is there as well. It's not that much further than downtown. You have the light rail there. So if you need to get to downtown or to the path, you still have that proximity, but you get more space for the money, or you get something that's brand new.
And I think that with the buildings coming in, the nice thing about the buildings coming in, even though it's such a historic feel around, is the newer buildings are bringing in retail. And so we're getting, little shops in there and things that the neighborhood needs. And that's adding to the desirability of the neighborhood. And I think, being a veteran of this business and being here, for as long as I have, watching the difference in perception of people are willing to go and try, a different neighborhood now in Jersey City. We've watched, the Heights explode. We've seen Bergen Lafayette get busier. We've seen, the other parts of Jersey City grow and develop because people aren't, they are open to trying other areas and getting that more bang for their buck. But they do want they still want the amenities. So to have restaurants and shops coming in, if anybody's been paying attention, they see that, okay, that's a good sign. And that's a sign that we're gonna, it's only gonna keep getting, more exciting, more going on over there, and might be also a good investment.
Another thing to factor in Lafayette. Sorry, I was just going to say architecture. A lot of it is brick, where people want brick. If you go to Journal Square, if you go to the Heights, you're not going to find as much brick as you would in, let's say, Astor Place in Bergen Lafayette. And you have a lot of people coming from Brooklyn to Jersey City, so they like the idea of a brick row house, and checks a lot of boxes.
I agree with you completely. That neighborhood, you have more of the blocks of very cohesive, beautiful brownstones, brick row houses. I live in the Heights myself, and I love the Heights, but I've watched over the years where, one house is like this color, this design, the next house is this color, that design. And, it's not a very cohesive block. I think that Bergen Lafayette, there's blocks that just are gorgeous, and as each one kind of gets renovated or a little more love given to some of them, it enhances the whole block and neighborhood.
Character.
I'm going to pop in and answer one or two of these questions that in a second that we've been that are showing up in the Q&A and so forth. But Jim, where's the Bergen Lafayette area in Hoboken right
now? I'm probably going to say west of Willow and probably north of 8th. That area back there is hot. Like Natalie said, you'll see in that area a lot of little restaurants are opening up, bring your own, things like that. And the other thing we're seeing too in both, I mentioned Bergen Lafayette and also Hoboken, is we have new buyers fixing their own homes. They're into it. The cable has changed everything. People want to do their own finishing. They'll do their own floors. They're doing their own bathrooms, which is more of a family environment type of a project than to go out and hire a contractor. They're loving this new, I can do it myself, go to Home Depot, go to Lowe's, whatever, and bring my own kitchen in, bring my own. It's a big deal right now.
I'm on mute because I got my daughter yelling in the background. Welcome to the whole work from home culture. Let me just knock out some interesting questions here and even in the chat as it relates to some of the things that we've already spoken about. Very tempting to stay renting because of the high concessions and the luxury buildings. You know, here we go. And this is such a personal question, right? Do I lock in a great lease and a great rent, or do I buy now? So instead of giving a yes or no, what's the one or two questions you would ask Jessica, right? She's like, obviously very tempting to stay renting with a lot of concessions in a luxury building. But once again, that could also hit pause on what this person should be doing, which is not paying someone else's mortgage. So good, Natalie.
I know people that really enjoy a certain lifestyle of living in a rental building, and that's their choice. You know, they don't want to have to be worrying about, look, you own a home. It's the joys of home ownership. There's going to be things are going to leak. Appliances got to be replaced. But I also know people that have chosen that lifestyle for themselves and still seeing the opportunity in these interest rates in this market to buy possibly an investment property. Okay, I love where I live. I'm renting, fine. But there is an opportunity. And Hudson County, for certainly years and years and years, has been the hottest market in New Jersey, or certainly one of, and we're seeing a little bit of a dip right now. So I do think that there's an opportunity to get in. And so, even if you chose to extend that lease and stay there because you like it, you like the amenities, it's still worth discussing with, someone about your building your wealth.
And sometimes renting does make sense. However, I think a lot of people get tempted by the incentives, and you really have to look at the gross, not the net. I had a friend who moved basically every 12 to 16 months, and he would complain every time. He's like, my lease is up, I have to move. I'm like, why are you moving? And he said, the gross rent was basically, 20% more than he could afford, but the net rent was so attractive that he had no problem moving in. So I think it really is case by case.
We review our renters on an annual basis in November and December, coming into January when their lease is expiring. And a lot of them are telling us that they're waiting to find out if their job is going to stay where it is before they leave their rental. So that's another thing that drives. I mean, we all know employment is directly related to real estate. Mm-hmm. So people need to know that they're going to be in their job. Are they going back to the city? So some of them are staying in their rental because they call the landlord and they get a reduced rate. But the thing that they're concerned about is, where's the price of the new unit I want to buy when I'm ready to go? Is it going to be up 12%? Is it going to be up 15%? And rates are going to maybe climb up a little bit in a year from now? The same unit they want to buy now could cost them, 20% more in a year from now.
Interesting. Very interesting. I really like Natalie's take on, maybe you stay in your luxury rental lifestyle and you find an opportunity to start dipping your toe in the water and buying maybe even a smaller unit that's a good investment, like one of those one bedrooms right now. So I like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a property that you move into. Such a personal lifestyle decision, such a key point. Let's go back to real time right now, because there's a question on here about real time, trends, immediate trends. I think most people know that outside of Hudson County in one family land, right? Essex, Union, other areas, Bergen, right? There are lines outside the doors of one family, of one families. I was joking earlier that, you know, I live in the Maplewood area of New Jersey, and I'm walking by a house and there's 30 people waiting to get in an open house. You talked about Toll Brothers, you know, 3 to 4 weeks, you know, for new development in Hoboken and Jersey City. What are we seeing immediate right now, first 3 weeks, the biggest aha regarding pricing trends in Jersey City and Hoboken?
Just interject real fast, Eric, you know, you make a good point about the lines outside at open houses in the suburbs, and it definitely is true. But people also have to realize back in 2017, that's how Jersey City Hoboken was. Like there was, you know, 5, 10 offers on everything. So it's very cyclical. And, you know, I have no reason to believe that it's not going to shift back to city living. Might not be 2 years, but, you know, in the near future.
Hey, I agree. I mean, this is, like you said, I forgot which one of you mentioned it earlier. I think people are dramatically overestimating the work from home culture. You know, I think that only certain things can get done in an office from a productivity standpoint. Whether it be ongoing flex time, probably. But I think people are very much overestimating, I'm going to be working from home 5 days a week for the rest of my life.
That's absolutely happening. Yeah, I mean, you know, I hear, look, I'm a Jersey City girl, you know, through and through, 24 years here. I really just see this as a little blip in what's going on. We've had things that have brought us down before, and we've popped right back up in a year or two. I mean, horrible things that have happened, and we came back even stronger every time. So I do just kind of keep going back to the, you know, and it's not across the board. And I want to be clear on that. We've had this discussion to make it so general that Jersey City or Hudson County is struggling. Yes, but if you had a 3-bedroom facing south with some extra room for an office, you had 8 offers. You know, maybe, you know, right now you have an opportunity to buy better than you could have before. So with the same money that you had a year ago, prices are down a little bit on certain things. Interest rates are low, so you have more buying power. You can get that home that was a little out of your price range a year and a half ago. You can get better now. So I wouldn't say that, you know, we're not getting bidding. I've gotten multiple offers on plenty of my listings. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with marketing and making sure that things are priced properly. If you're priced too high, nobody's going to come, and you're going to be hoping for that one offer that comes through. So again, going back to the pricing, it's important to know what's going on in the market, and again, digging into the details. This is not a general conversation. We've all talked about this. A 1-bedroom in a walk-up building as opposed to a 1-bedroom in a high-rise, totally different demand. Eric, you're... And
once again, like you're saying, it's such a personal thing. Someone made a comment, you know, that they do think working from home is the new norm, you know. And if you think that, then you will adjust your buying or selling or renting expectations accordingly. That's why this is such a personal thing. It's interesting, right? I mean, and let's be also honest, not every industry is created equal, right? So you have to think about what industry is going to be based where and how it affects the local real estate market. So, but is it a fair consensus what I'm hearing from all of you, like the first 3 weeks of January has not been a normal January? It's kind of like it's an early spring season. I just want to share that with people. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Pent up demand. It seems like everybody was waiting for the new year. It's been really busy.
So I opened up, here we go again, right? It's supposed to be all about data, but I did open up Pandora's box before. Let's answer this. We got a question here in the chat as well. Super quick, like we even do this rapid fire. Someone asked, you know, what kind of due diligence would you suggest in finding a real estate agent? So of course, my first response to that person is going to be, well, we have 3 here. You need none other. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, what's the one question someone should ask a real estate agent? You know, I know there's 20, but pick your one. I'm going to start since I'm moderating and I'm in control. I mean, I like a general one. Why you? Why you versus the 6,000 others, right, that exist in Hudson County? And I you know, so I think we start there and we go from general to specific. But my first question would always be, why you? And that better be a very compelling response. So one question everyone should ask a real estate agent, in part of their vetting process. Who wants to start?
What's the longest you've worked with a client for? I think that's a great question.
Say that again.
What's the longest myself as an agent has ever worked with a client for? Because, you know, this is a very long process. A lot of times it's not, I mean, I've had clients that have put in 10 offers before they finally got their home. You need somebody who's not tied to the result. You need somebody who is really looking out for your best interests and realizes that it's a journey. Everybody's is different.
Well, but that's great, because that also goes into what's your approach, right? There are agents, and you could feel that stress that it is tied to the outcome, but this could be a journey, right? It could be one weekend, it could be 3 years.
Absolutely.
So really cool point. Jim and Natalie, real quick.
Ask them what the process is. How do they work with buyers and sellers? What is their process? That's a big question.
Right. I think that their experience in the market and in their particular property even. I mean, there are agents that have more experience in condos. There's specialists in multifamilies. So I think making sure that they are familiar with your type of property and that they have some experience. But I would say that across the board with not just real estate professionals, but your entire team, your mortgage lender, your attorney, you know, make sure that it's not just your, you know, your aunt or a friend or a buddy, that these are actually every step along the way, you're working with the best person you could be working with.
Yeah, I think people underestimate even the little things, right? You know, you're at Bank of America and you're talking to the mortgage rep that's based in Texas.
Right.
That could be super challenging. You're buying in a building that, you know, maybe have some issues, right?
Yeah.
Very mortgageable, but may have some issues, and still a good investment, but may have some issues. So you really need someone, you know, boots on the ground that knows what's happening from block to block and building to building. Awesome. Final thoughts. And let's try and, you know, wrap it around data here. I'm kind of looking to see if there's any Q&A. So please share with us any Q&A that you have. We got 5 or 10 minutes left here. I believe Chelsea will also, you know, the great Chelsea, who oversees Triplemint House Hoboken, will be entering all of our information into the chat. So if you want to connect with any of us, I believe Chelsea now is going to be entering all of our emails if you want to email us directly. And obviously we can't not put our social media handles on there, which I think is mostly Instagram for all of us. So I think Chelsea's putting that on now. So if you want to connect with anyone, any of us, we'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to give a quick, for anybody that is jumping off early, I'm going to give a quick thank you. It's our first one. We're going to be doing this monthly. We're going to be taking suggestions from the audience, so we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be having different panel members on each month, really exploring deep dives into the Hudson County market and beyond. I just also want to be clear, we have, what, 30 some odd agents that oversee New Jersey for Triplemint right now, and we work at least a half a dozen counties. So this is not just a Hudson County play, even though we're doing a deep dive here. And also, I know Chelsea is pinging me here. If anybody that wants to take a look at the fourth quarter market report from Triplement's data scientists, because we actually have data scientists at the brokerage, there's a link in there in the chat, and you could download that now. So really thank you all for coming. Final thoughts from all three of you on the market, data, and just any advice for someone listening today. Natalie.
I would say that the data is really valuable when we're needing to take the emotion out of this process. This can be a very emotional process for sellers, for buyers, and for us as well as realtors. And the data gives us an opportunity to try to remove that a bit and try to focus on the data. But I do think it's important for a buyer and a seller to find someone that can translate that data for you. Obviously, that's kind of where we come in, so that you really understand it, because you can't just have a broad stroke. You really do have to have an understanding of how that relates to your property or what you're looking to purchase. So
I love that. And that goes back to even before, when someone asks, you know, what do you find in a great agent, right? Someone that has an opinion, right? Don't just give me the data. You're the expert. Interpret the data as it relates to me. And that, like you said, it's so personal. Don't just give me broad strokes. What does this data mean to me and my expectations and my goals? And if an agent can do that intelligently, then you know that's the right agent for you. So thank you for sharing that, Natalie. Mr. McCarten.
My mantra is you need to find someone that's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, especially in this market.
Okay. So this is not about a likability contest. You know, I used to joke back in the day, you don't need to like me, just respect my opinion, right? This is not a love fest. You know, as Michelle said here, hashtag truth. It's so true, right? I mean, but that goes back to what Paul said earlier, someone that's not married to the result, right? You want a true professional, right, is not going to push surgery on you, right? They're going to ask the right questions.
You're about to make the biggest purchase of your life. You mentioned it before.
Right.
So you need to hear transparency. You need to hear what the data is and straight up. And
whether you like it or not.
Correct. I think if I can be so blunt, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Mr. Witte.
I guess use a professional. You know, I know so many people have a cousin, a friend, an aunt, an uncle, and they think that it's in their best interest to list their home with them because they can trust them. Worst idea in the world. You need somebody who's an expert. You need somebody who's, you know, been through the tough transactions and got them across the finish line. I mean, you know, from what I'm seeing, at least last year, it's the past couple of years, every transaction has just been a grind. You know, the inexperienced agents are really doing their clients a disservice by not giving them the right guidance, from what I'm seeing.
Well, that goes back to what both of them said earlier, right? You got to remove the emotion. Really tough to remove the emotion when, and once again, there's nothing against Aunt Sally, but it's really tough to remove the emotion when you know you're seeing Aunt Sally at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Sorry, Natalie, what were you going to say?
Local. Again, going back to what we said, local. Your Aunt Sally could have been doing real estate for 40 years out in somewhere else, and she may know all kinds of great stuff and have really great suggestions, but she has no idea how things move here. And I think that's important. It's not just a real estate professional, but a real estate professional that understands the market that you're looking to buy or sell in very, very well.
It is officially snowing. I really thank the 50 plus people that have joined us today. It's the inaugural launch of, you know, monthly data and real estate insights with Triplemint Real Estate. I can't thank Natalie, Jim, and Paul enough for joining us and sharing some wisdom and guidance. Once again, another huge shout out to Hoboken Girl, who produces amazing content, fun, educational content for all things Hudson County. We're going to be doing this monthly, and we have one goal. We have one goal is to educate our clients so they can make the best possible real estate decisions for their family and build wealth, right? It's a great way to build wealth. So I want to thank everyone participating. I want to thank the panel members. I want to thank Chelsea. And I want to thank everybody that's joined us today, and have a safe and healthy and happy Tuesday, January 26, 2021. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.